Housing. Everyone's talking about housing, affordable housing, accessible housing. You want to learn about housing? Then stay tuned to Real Possibilities. Today we are talking about housing. We hear so much about affordable, accessible housing in the state of Michigan. People can't afford it. They want to sell their homes. They want to downsize. The children are out of college or have moved away. And we have three what I consider very resourceful, I won't call you experts, but very resourceful people here to talk about housing options for young people, for older adults, for everyone. So thank you so much for being a part of Real Possibilities today. Yeah. So let's just talk, when we talk about housing, particularly accessible and affordable housing, who are we talking? What's the market that we're talking about? Older adults primarily, or young people? Anyone have a comment on that? Who are we talking about? We've got a young person. We've got some not so young.
Thank you. That was very kind.
Accessible and affordable housing impacts everybody. Mm-hmm. Correct?
Right. Well, I would. Yeah. You know, I think that I see more and more people moving at an older and older age and trying to live longer in their current homes, which might be a good thing, might not necessarily be great, but they tend to be making the transition later in life.
You know, that's interesting. It's a dear, dear friend of mine, Dr. Olga Holden, she won't mind me saying that, will be turning 90, and she's got a beautiful home in Langsburg on the lake, and she's looking at moving again. This is probably her fourth or fifth move, moving again. So people are moving at all ages.
Yes.
And actually, she's looked at your facility.
I was going to say, I've met Olga.
Yes, yeah. I think she's moving into your facility. And so talk a little bit about what Bertram has to offer.
Well, Bertram Hills is what's called a continuum of care retirement community. We're the only CCRC in the greater Lansing area. The closest ones would be in CCRC, Continuum of Care Retirement Community. What that means is we offer everything from independent living to skilled nursing. And what makes the most unique offering here is an entrance deposit community, which is very attractive in larger retirement communities around the country. If you have any friends who live in the villages down in Florida, or if you've heard about those big retirement communities in Arizona and Florida, they're generally an entrance deposit community. And what that means is you put down an entrance deposit, generally you get that entrance deposit from selling your home. You take the equity of your home, you put it into your retirement community, and then you're assured of a place in that retirement community for the rest of your life. You transition, you move in independently. That entrance deposit offsets your initial monthly rent, and then as your health needs change, you might change from independent living to assisted living. There might be one spouse who has greater care needs, might live in memory care, while the other spouse lives in the nice big independent living apartment. So we offer everything. Yeah. And on our property we have independently owned condominiums. They're on Bertram Hills property. Bertram Hills owns the land, and then people own their own condo and can utilize some of our services.
You know, I first heard about that when Dr. Phil Gannon, who used to be president of Lansing Community College, and his wife Lois were perfectly healthy. He had just built an airplane and flew it. She was perfectly healthy, and they both moved into a facility in Florida together so that they knew they were aging. So that's an option for people to think about even before they have to move, are required to move. And then there are other options, Ms. Diane Bright, occupational therapist, of people who, when we survey over and over again, folks want to stay home. They want to age in place. 89% want to age in place.
And the interesting thing is that when we say they want to stay home, the home is the most personal building that you ever have any access to or stay in. But home also is defined more of what surrounds you there. So when you say, I want to stay where I am or age in place, I want my neighbors, or maybe the ones around the corner, but it's all about that whole milieu of what makes your home, your neighborhood. And I want to say, having recently done that downsizing and recently done that move, I don't miss the house, I don't miss some of the things we talked about earlier. It's so much bigger and so much, sometimes when I'm looking for something in the closet, but other than that, but what I miss is 35 years of the same people. It's 35 years of the same, when I drive past that area to go to Home Depot in another city, it's home. It's always every street. So going back to something that we just heard, the house can be your friend or it can not be your friend. And we talk about universal design concepts. Most house of stock of housing since the 1940s has not been inclusive design or universal design. And that's where, if you are looking to stay in place, the place being that neighborhood, that's where we bounce into, can someone else in the family live in that house that it's not meeting your needs? That you're not disabled. The environment is disabling you. You know, you have steps, you have a small bathroom, you can't get in and out, your laundry's located in the basement. All the things that you'll see be more of a problem as just what doesn't last anymore with aging in terms of physical capabilities. But whether you modify that house, which is a much more costly effect, or look at an ADU, which is an auxiliary dwelling unit. A lot of times family lives in the big house, daughter, whatever, caregiver, and the auxiliary unit in the back is where the family members that need the help live. And so there's all kinds of ways of making it work.
And that's what this program's all about, is just looking at options. And we always say to ARP, we want people to age with dignity and to have choices as they age, and to age with respect. So there's no one size fits all here. But one thing that you said, and I want to get to Jason in a moment, that's something you shared with me earlier too, is that there's a whole social isolation even at home.
Yes.
And so even though you're in that neighborhood, when people start moving or dying or leaving that neighborhood, you could be in your home, and if you can't get out, you are in home where you want to be, but you're isolated. And so that's another consideration, and there's some options for people if they're in a different kind of neighborhood to walk down to a dining hall or to walk down and see other people. So a lot to consider. And you mentioned assisted dwelling units. So we have our in-house expert here, and my buddy in Fix All Things. I call him Mr. Google because he knows everything and fixes everything, and he's wonderful. Jason Lukowski, who is our Associate State Director for Advocacy. And you just had a major, or we, I should say, just had a major win with an ADU right here in the city of Lansing, an auxiliary dwelling unit.
Yes, so
What is an auxiliary dwelling unit?
Yes, so accessory dwelling units are not a new concept by any means. You may have actually heard of them as something referred to as carriage houses, granny flats, or in-law suites. In essence, it's a self-contained home or apartment that is separate from the principal residence, but it offers all of the amenities of the principal residence. So a bathroom, a bedroom, and a kitchen or kitchenette. ADUs are, the big beauty of them is that they provide flexibility in that they can be built into existing neighborhoods and increase density. So you get that benefit of staying in your community, in your neighborhood, while going to a smaller space. They are an accessible and affordable option for all ages. For young families, it's a starter home. For families kind of in the thick of it, it allows them to live together as a family while still apart. And then for older adults, it gives them options like moving into the smaller space and having a relative or a caregiver in the larger, or potentially just renting out the larger residence as a way to generate additional income in retirement.
What's the downsize for a neighborhood? If someone's looking at auxiliary assisted dwelling units, what's the downside? Because I've heard that, first off, you got to have the land, you got to have space to be able to build that, and then sometimes the neighbors may or may not be as amenable to having that type of facility in their neighborhood.
The
Right?
two biggest considerations that you need to look at for an accessory dwelling unit are going to be cost. They are less costly than a full single-family residence, but they're still going to be more costly than other forms of housing. And the second is whether or not they're even allowed within your community. In the state of Michigan, we don't have a statewide accessory dwelling unit law, which means that each community is going to have their own zoning ordinances that determine whether or not you're able to have this type of housing. And then there are intricacies of, can the ADU be attached to the main structure? Does it have to be detached? And then you have things like setbacks, how far it has to be from a property line, how much of the backyard it can take up in terms of percentage of space. So there are a lot of considerations, and often these are custom designed, which has the benefit that they then fit in very discreetly in a neighborhood, but there's also then that cost associated with that.
And I mean, everything has some cost associated with it, whether it's going to some transitional housing, ADU, or even retrofitting your own home. So people need to start planning earlier. Everyone thinks it's not going to happen to me, it's not going to be me. But they need to start thinking if it's not you, it's going to be someone you love. And so still plan whether it's you or someone else. What would you suggest people do as they're thinking about aging and thinking about housing? What's some of the first 2 or 3 steps they should take?
I would think that the best thing you can do is to be aware of those options, you know, and go visit an all-inclusive, I would call, home environment. Look at first that auxiliary dwelling unit sounds great to me, but my city doesn't allow them yet. I had to get to this.
Get Jason into your city.
We already talked. But I think that you just have to do a lot more research, a lot of these kind of things, because you're not aware of it until you're in it, the thick of it, and then it's crazy. So know what those options are, and then especially if you have 2 people, one of you might like something better than the other.
Right. And you know, we talk about older adults because we're AARP and that's who we serve, but people with disabilities, people who with young children, many times the stairs could be an issue even for a young family, a young mother with 2 or 3 children in their stairs, or wider grip bars in the restroom, grip bars in the bathroom, or wider doorways. That really benefits everyone, which gets us into the universal housing design a little bit. Tell us about how you manage that at Bertram. What's if someone has a need for additional help?
Well, we offer assistance in assisted living, obviously. In the independent living, there are different levels of accessibility when Stonebriar was built. The interesting thing is that a lot of people who need assistance or may need assistance don't want their home to look like they need assistance. You know, they'll look and they say, this looks too clinical. I don't want this, you know. So we try to build the building so that it can be modified easily. A certain percentage need to be accessible, move-in ready. Things like not only wider doors, but a larger space next to the door. Because you not only have to get a wheelchair through the door, but you need to be able to get beside the door so that you can reach and open the door. Some of our apartments have automated doors with remote control. So you can pull up, push the button, and your door will automatically open. But not everybody wants their apartment to look like that from the outside. When you're building it, make sure that there are struts that are already there so that after you move in, when you develop a need for grab bars, it's easier to put the grab bars in. And that's probably something that people can do at a very early age. I mean, if you're a 30-something person and you're building a home, you could make sure that there are struts in the bathroom so that if you want to live there for the rest of your life, you can add them easier.
And that's one of the perceptions we are trying so hard to get over, that it's not just an older adult thing. It just makes good sense for everybody. I mean, this is your lane. This is what you've taught on this. You've done all kinds of programming all over the country, quite frankly, on how to retrofit a home. Talk a little bit more about that, would you please, Diane?
Sure. You might be sorry.
I said a little bit more.
A little bit more. I heard that. I guess design for all inclusive design is more of what I'm out there about saying and what it's more about. And that's that you're not designing to be clinical. A clinical place would be. But your home is, again, your most precious building, your most personal space. And a lot of it has to do with making form follows function is the mantra of design. So what is it you're going to do in that space? So you're talking about an ADU even having a kitchenette or a kitchen. Distinguishable difference being that you're not using the appliances that you would be using in a kitchen that you would be using in a kitchenette. You might have a microwave, you might have shelving, a sink, but nothing that has to do with other space needs or the space needs you're talking about. So you got to know what you want, you know, what's important to you. The biggest things, steps are our final frontier. Whether you're entering in every aspect of mobility as a human being, from 2 years old to 200 years old, you either end of the spectrum, stairs are a problem. More visits to the emergency room are recorded because somebody's been injured using stairs. So we have to look at a accessible entry, meaning accessible to all, not necessarily a wheelchair, but if it's good for a wheelchair, if you design for the most, it works for the most. So doorways that have lever handles or are automatically opening, and at least one entrance that has a space where you could get in without using those steps, whether you use wheels or walker. More adults that are aging use walkers than use wheelchairs. And if you can't get in, you can get in through the doorway, but if you are in a bathroom and you don't have the space to turn around with that walker, you can't close the door and have your privacy. So those kind of things are the most important, is the size of the space in front of a door, the door, how it's located, and what you're putting in there. Sometimes it's that silly toilet that stops somebody from using the bathtub because it's placed right next to it. So I would, suggest that, well, AARP has phenomenal information regarding inclusive design, universal design, and actually workbooks, and you can go through your own house and check it, see what, I got 80% of these things here. I might want to think about this now. And all I can say is, if you're going to retrofit, you're talking building expenses. If you're going to build, you're talking business expenses. So look at what you're going to get your biggest bang for the buck.
Right, and do a little bit at a time.
Right.
Yes.
And start early, right? You don't have
start
to
early.
wait. Yeah, just do a little bit at a time.
Well, no steps, and I can apply this to myself again. How wide's that door for moving that couch in? Why do they have that little half wall so you can't make the 90-degree turn? Those kinds of, open space, open concept, and get rid of those darn steps. And you can do it by grading a walkway.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be, if you already have something, or you're building, it doesn't have to be no basement or anything like that.
Yeah. My daughter just talked about aging, just had a baby, and the first thing that they said to her was, do you have steps at home? I mean, this is young, old, whatever. The steps can be a real barrier. And you talk about, I know we're running out of time. We've got a minute and a half left, and this is such a rich conversation. But when you talk about certain communities not having ADUs, what do people need to do, Jason, if they want to advocate for assisted auxiliary dwelling units in their communities?
That's a great question, Paula. AARP actually provides a fantastic publication called the ABCs of ADUs. It provides additional information in terms of ADUs, the types, and then things that you can do. And AARP actually has model legislation for both the state and local communities to be able to write an effective ADU ordinance. So if you're looking in your community, you've reached out to your planning department and they say they don't allow them, you can then get that publication from aarp.org and you can send it to your planning officials, say, we need more flexible and affordable housing in our community, and here's a way that we can do it. And then you can always reach out to us here at AARP2, let us know what you're doing. We're always looking for new communities to be able to expand.
Absolutely. And one of the things I remember when we were advocating the Lansing City Council, we actually had a young person there giving testimony, and we also had older adults there giving testimony. So it just goes to show that this is an issue that impacts every single age, every single person. If it doesn't now, it will soon. We've got 10 seconds left. Comment?
I just want to say start planning early. If you
Yes.
have to have a list of your finances to know whether you've got the money to modify your
Yep.
home, it might make the cost of moving seem lower if you figured out how much it would cost to modify your home.
Great information here. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you for listening to AARP Real Possibilities.
CATA's regional mobility solutions can help seniors seize the day. Hear what our riders and community leaders have to say about the value CATA brings to the lives of aging adults.
My name is Louis Schnabelrausch. I'm 91, going on 92 years old. I have to depend on CATA a lot because I quit driving about 5 years ago. And it's a godsend for me. I shouldn't be driving, and because my reaction time is slower, my vision's not as good as it was 30 years ago. I ride free because I'm a veteran. Well, a lot of times I have to go to VA clinic on Cedar Street with a CATA. I use CATA 3 or 4 times a week. I use Ready Ride mostly. Sometimes go shopping. I ride free, and I appreciate that. Well, that's really something I don't have to pay to get on. Then I know that I can call them up, and they're pretty good about being punctual and stuff like that. I'll say that. I get to meet other people. I feel as it amazes me that some of the drivers will recognize somebody that they've seen 4 or 5 years ago. They remember their names. It amazes me how those on the CATA drivers, how helpful they are. I don't need help, but a lot of people do need help. And like they have a bicycle, they put that on the front, or like they'll bring some groceries out, they'll help them with the groceries, put them inside the car. So that impresses me.
I'm Tracy Anderson with Impart Alliance at Michigan State University. Today I'm joined by Dan and Jennifer from Mount Pleasant. They're here to talk with us a little bit about the current crisis in our state with the shortage of direct care workers. At this point in time, our state needs at least 36,000 more direct care workers to meet our current need.
And that's a big number. And I just hope that people realize what direct care workers, what impact they make in our lives and in people who need that. And just, I can continue to contribute to society, to my local economy, my quality of life is better, and I'm sure you feel the same way.
I think having direct care workers allows Jennifer, because she could live in an assisted living home, and it's just like to be able to live in your own home and contribute to the community, and I think then that's, spending money and buying things and just the economy of that alone. So that just saves the state money and provides greater resources for the community.
And it certainly makes the quality of my life better. And I can go out and I can leave my house. I don't want to say trapped in my house, that sounds so dramatic, but if I didn't have a direct care worker, if I didn't have Jen to be able to drive me places or to help me with opening bottles while Dan continues working, that would totally impact both of our lives.
And I think with your doing that in the home, not only does it benefit the person who receives the care, but then it benefits everybody else within the family because you have that assistance.
Thank you both. To learn more about direct care and the advocacy around this issue, please visit our website at impartalliance.msu.edu.
So we've all talked about the sandwich generation. What is the sandwich generation? What do we need to know about?
Yeah, the sandwich generation is the generation that ate sandwiches. No, it's not that. Sandwich generation, the idea is you've got folks who are caring for parents and caring for their own children, and they're kind of in between. And we could spend the rest of the day talking about situations we've had where kids did just that. The sandwich generation was a real thing. It was everywhere. It's what happened. What we're seeing now, though, is that's really kind of past. the generation of kids, and there's still a lot out there. I'm not saying there are none. There are a lot out there. But what we're seeing more and more is when the kids try to take care of mom and dad, they'll come to us and we'll say, well, here's the PACE program, here's these other supports that you get. Oh no, we're going to take care of mom ourselves. Well, they're back in 2 weeks saying, I had no idea that there was so much involved. And so, for your own sake, you know, if you're counting on your kids to care for you, nowadays, I mean, back in the past, yeah, that was a real thing. Right. And you could get help from the church lady. Right. Well, the church lady needs long-term care herself now, and she's not being brought along. And so, you know, you've got to do the planning. This is what the elder law is all about. Is about making sure that when you need resources, the resources will be there. The resources you paid for will be there to serve you. Yeah. And that sandwich generation, it was a real thing, but...
And that caregiver needs to take care of themselves. So thank you so much, David. I appreciate that. Thank you. Dr. June, so many people don't know the difference between inflammation and autoimmune. Share with us what they should know.
Well, that's a very large question, and so I'll give you a very small answer. Is inflammation isn't necessarily autoimmune, so a lot of people do get that confused. An example, if someone were to hit you with a baseball bat, and I hope that never happens.
Yeah, they better hope it never happens.
Yeah. You're going to swell up and you're going to get localized inflammation from damaged cells. That doesn't mean you have an autoimmune problem, it's just a localized inflammation. Sometimes people get things called gout, and that's technically autoinflammation, and your immune system's trying to fight back, but it's not necessarily autoimmune per se. Now, autoimmune can be a huge variety of things. Most people are aware of lupus or rheumatoid arthritis or psoriatic arthritis. Those are autoimmune mediated diseases where your immune system is attacking your body. So that doesn't mean that inflammation can't be a part of it, but just because something's inflammatory doesn't not necessarily mean it's autoimmune. And just because it's autoimmune doesn't always mean it's inflammatory.
And so what should you do if you're not sure? Do you need to see a doctor regardless?
Start with your primary care, and if you really are convinced you have an inflammatory or an autoimmune problem, see a rheumatologist or an immunologist. And they'll do the workup and see if you indeed have an autoimmune or an inflammatory condition and what to do about it.
And you mentioned gout, you mentioned the baseball bat. Will they be able to distinguish exactly what's going on and what's caused it, or just identify it?
Well, I'd love to say we always and exactly anything. The answer is that they're going to give it the best try they can to try to answer what's going on. We live in a time, though, where rheumatoid arthritis, and to a lesser extent lupus, are pretty obvious when you have the full-blown symptoms, but a lot of this flies under the radar because not everything's read the textbook. Right. So sometimes you get unusual presentations of these fairly rare diseases, and that's when they really have to do blood work and over time and different types of radiology to try to figure out really what the diagnosis is. It's not easy.
And there you have it. Thank you, Dr. June. Appreciate it. There's a lot of information that was shared today, and hopefully there was news that you can use. Please share this information with others. Thanks for watching Real Possibilities.